So a photography contest can be a great way to raise funds for your organization, and there's a few different ways that you can do that. The first is to charge photographers to submit their photographs. So maybe you have a flat fee that you would charge to every photograph that's submitted. So you could do that back on your original contest submissions form. You can add some pricing fields. So you would add a product field, call this photo submission, charge a price, whatever you want that to be. And then you can add a total field. You would need to set up a connection with a payment gateway. So Gravity Forms integrates with a number of different payment gateways like PayPal, Stripe, Authorize.net, and several others. So you would just need to download the add-on for Gravity Forms that connects with your payment gateway of choice. And then you would add that field here as well to collect credit card information. And then you would also have a feed that you would want to set up here for your payment gateway. So that's the first way to do it. You would charge the photographers on the front end, keep the same rating system that we set up earlier, and so you would just collect money based on the number of photographs that were submitted into your contest. Another way to run a fundraiser with your photo contest is to charge the voters. So there's a couple of different ways to do that. First, we'll look at how to charge a flat rate per vote. To do this, you want to create a new form. Photography contest fundraiser. So here we're going to put in a couple of single line text fields. The first one will be the image ID, and the second one will be the image description. In a minute, we'll look at those fields in more detail to see how we'll be using those. Then we want to add a product field, and we'll give it a price, let's say $5. You could disable the quantity field if you want people to only be able to cast one vote at a time, or if you want them to be able to put in a quantity and say, I want to vote 10 times for this one photograph, and then they would pay $50. You could do that as well. So that's up to you based on how you want to run the contest. Then you'd put in a total field, and then again, based on your payment gateway, you would add the credit card field once you've got that set up. Okay, so now let's go back to the image ID field. And we're going to go to the Advanced tab and say Allow field to be populated dynamically. And we're going to put in a parameter name of ID. Now what we'll be doing with this is we will be linking this to the view so that when someone clicks a link in the view and says, I want to vote for this photograph, that's going to automatically populate this form to tell you which photograph this vote is coming in for, so that your voters don't have to describe what photograph they're voting for or put in some sort of code for it. That'll automatically be populated once we finish setting this up. Now you can also, I put in this extra field just to sort of give a greater sense of security to your voters, that they know that they're voting on the right photograph. You can use Gravity Perks Populate Anything. It's a separate plugin that would allow you to pull in the image description based on the image ID that comes in once that link is clicked. So I'm going to walk through how to set that up as well. So you'll click here, Populate Value Dynamically, and the type will be a Gravity Forms entry. You'll select the form, and then you'll add a filter, which is the entry ID on that form is the image ID in this field up here. And then you can choose entry ID, ascending, and the value that you're going to pull into this field here is the image description. Update that. Once you've completed the form, you'll want to embed this on a page on your website because then we'll link to that from the view. So let's go over to the view now. And we'll get rid of the reviews link because now the reviews will be coming in with dollars instead of stars. And we're going to add a custom content field here. So we're going to use HTML to create the link. So we'll say ahref equals. So you'll start with the URL of the page that your form is embedded on, that fundraiser form that we just created. And then you're going to add, at the end of that, make sure that there's the slash there. And then we'll do question mark. And then ID, which is, remember, the code that we put in to allow that ID field to be populated dynamically. We'll say equals, and then we're going to come over here to the merge tag icon, and we're going to choose the entry ID. So right there, the entry ID field, and then that will be the end of the URL. So that way, when this is clicked, it will automatically pull the entry ID from the particular photograph that this link is attached to. And so now we'll add the code or the text, vote for this photo. All right, and then we can close out of that. And now let's give that a whirl. Okay, so now we see this John Towner photo. We click vote for this photo. And so you can see the image ID is 69. The image description is dark mountains. That does seem like a good description of that photo. And now we're going to pay $5 to vote for that. That was option 2, was to have the voter pay a set price to vote for a particular photograph. So let's go now to back into that form. And another option is to allow the voter to choose their own price. So if you go into this product field here where it says field type single product, you can choose instead user defined price. And then that allows the voter to choose any price they want. Now, if you want to put some limits on that, if you want to set a minimum price that they have to choose or maybe a maximum price that they can't exceed, there is a separate plugin from Gravity Perks called GF Price Range that allows you to set those parameters. Everything else that we've set up here would stay the same, including the link that we put on the view. Now that we've finished setting up the fundraiser form, we can display the total amount that we've raised at the bottom of the view using GV Math. So let's go back over to the view. And scroll down to the bottom widgets. And we'll click add a widget. I'm going to put it on the right, but you could do it wherever. And choose custom content. And then we'll click on the gear icon there. We'll start by entering a label here. So I'm going to make it bold so that it stands out, and it's going to say total raised. And then I'll put a colon there. Next, I'm going to put a dollar sign so that we know we're looking at dollars here. And then we create our GV Math formula. So we start with an open bracket and then GV underscore math. Now what we want to do, remember this view is displaying the photographs that were submitted through the photograph submission form. But we want to pull now the total amount raised from a different form. from that fundraising form. So we're going to enter scope equals form, and that tells the formula here that we want to pull from a different form. Now we're going to enter the form ID. In my case, that's 24. And you can see that you can find your form ID if you go back to edit the form that you created, and right up at the top of the screen, there's an orange box right next to the title of the form that says ID, and then there's a number after it. So that's the number that you're looking for. So now we've told the formula here where we want to pull the information from, what form it's coming from. So now we want to tell it what field to pull from. So you'll want to get the field ID for the form. And so we're going to create a merge tag here. So the field that I'm pulling from is the total field, which is field ID 6. So there's my merge tag for that. And then inside the merge tag, I'm going to add an extra colon and the word sum, S-U-M, and that tells the formula that we want to add together all of the entries in that field. And then we'll close out the GVMath formula, and that should do it. So let's update this, and then we'll take a look at it. And now all the way down at the bottom here, you can see total raised is $60. Since we've created that as a formula, this number will automatically update as more submissions come in on that form.